All right, hello Petaluma. It was a tough day yesterday. It's been a tough 48 hours, heartbreaking, kind of sickening for many of us. But I want to tell you tonight how proud I am to represent a community that comes together like this on such short notice with such resolve and unity and moral clarity. So thank you so much. Thank you, Indivisible and Zyra. You know what I love about Indivisible, literally even the name Indivisible, is what it says is that even though the racists and the xenophobes, the anti-Semites want to tear us apart, we are indivisible. And so thank you for your leadership. Thank you for that important message that we need now more than ever. And it is so important that we are gathering here tonight and that all over California, all over this country, other communities, thoughtful people, law-abiding people are gathering in the same spirit because we have something to say, and we want to say it loudly so that all of the racists and the neo-Nazis and the xenophobes and the anti-Semites and white nationalists and even the people in the White House who have coddled and stoked and looked the other way and indulged this terrible, hateful movement, so that even they hear us. And we're here to say that we denounce racism and hatred and violence of every kind, and we're not going to stand for it. We don't want it in our country. We don't want it, certainly, in our community. And we shouldn't think for a minute that we are immune to this ugliness just because we're here in wonderful Petaluma, California. The reason this is happening in places like Charlottesville and other places is because the haters have gotten the dog whistle message from the very top of our government. Yes. Right? That suddenly it's okay to come out, publicly express, and even publicly act upon their violent hatred. So it's very important that we say something. Martin Luther King talked about how our lives begin to end when we see evil, when we see injustice, and when we do nothing. That by tolerating it, we actually condone and support it. And we're not going to do that here in Petaluma. So the reason I know that we're not immune from this is because right after the election last fall, we had a wonderful event that we have every year right here in downtown Petaluma, the Veterans Day Parade. And I was riding through the parade, as I always do, and thank you to the veterans here who have served our country. I've done this parade for years. I've lost track of how many years I've done it. Always one of my favorite events. It's such an all-American coming together of this community, a celebration of our country and those who serve it. But there was something different last year as my car drove right past the corner of this park. That's why I wanted to be at this vigil. I've got a lot of vigils in my district, but this is special. As my car drove past the corner of this park, I was stunned to see 3 young men holding Confederate flags, including a flag with a symbol that talked about the South rising again. They were wearing Trump t-shirts, and clearly they too had gotten this dog whistle message from the Trump campaign and President-elect at the time, Donald Trump. So none of us are immune to this hatefulness, but here's the good news. Our president yesterday quoted Nelson Mandela, who so eloquently reminded us that nobody is born hating anyone else because of the color of their skin. All of this crazy, hateful ideology is totally unnatural, and it can be unlearned, just as, unfortunately, it was learned by a lot of the people we saw yesterday in Charlottesville. So we can do our part to help teach a much better message and to help people unlearn it. And when we do, it's a powerful thing. You know, 2 years ago, I had the chance to be in Selma, Alabama for the 50-year celebration of John Lewis and Martin Luther King and others who crossed the Edmund T. Pettus Bridge marching for voting rights. And I had the chance to start a conversation with a woman sitting next to me at dinner who turned out to be the daughter of George Wallace, right? One of the most unreconstructed racists our nation has ever seen. But she told me the story about how in the final years of his life, he sort of saw the light. He came to understand how wrong the things that he had been taught, the things that he had learned really were. In the final years of his life, he became an ambassador for tolerance and unity and love. Those are the things that are going to help us get through this. The challenge of keeping our country on a forward path of progress has always been great. It's never been a steady climb, but we've always found a way through. And I think by this kind of spirit that we're seeing tonight in Petaluma, California, we are going to find a way. We're going to need to sustain it, right? The values and the moral clarity and the good judgment that have brought all of you together tonight are going to have to be sustained all the way through Election Day of next year, because that's one of our great opportunities to push back on this terrible agenda and start taking our country back. But tonight, I'm just so proud to be with all of you. I'm so pleased to see us making this positive, peaceful, and important statement together. And we're going to keep making it until people hear it all over this country and in the White House. Thank you.
Folks have supported this man and his agenda at every single step so far. So I hope this marks a break from the president and maybe the beginning of a bipartisan pushback on a number of things.
Even there that, given that we see people like Ted Cruz, even more agile, other people who've been
Some great statements. I was very pleased to see them again, though, somewhat at odds with their support of this president and his agenda.
with the policies.
Let's be serious in a way that's more than just a nice tweet or a nice statement. Let's get serious about getting Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller and other white nationalists out of the White House.
Policy-wise, is there anything in terms of policy that you would like to see?
Oh, sure. Jeff Sessions is rolling back voting rights as we speak. Voter suppression is moving forward at the federal level in many of the states as we speak. So I welcome the nice statements from Ted Cruz and Orrin Hatch and others. But if you really care about bringing us together and about civil rights and pushing back on hatred and racism, you got to start to do something about it.
The election commission will come back.
Another great example.
Probably, yeah.
What do you think it says where this has been, more events within Sonoma County, all kind of spontaneous within 24 hours, and just unlike the Women's March, we had a lot of planning. This can be there. What do you think it's reflects in terms of this is happening across the country? Is there anything that just people are getting more frustrated, angry, or
Constantly frustrated.
Something about what happened in Charlottesville is different. It shook us. And we're going to be talking about it, I think, for a long time. Both because it was so heartbreaking and vile, but also because of how it exposed President Trump and others like him who have empowered this movement, directly and indirectly.
Those notes. Yeah, I have probably a Word document broken up into subjects.
How you doing?
Probably
All right. Yeah.
like single point font and no spaces.
Law that they're trying to pass against running was over during protest.
Like, I mean, just the
I don't know. I just heard about that as I was driving up here, literally, and I had no idea what a wrong-headed law. And I don't know if they were proposing it in Virginia or anywhere else. I know it was a state law.
And then my other question is,
You wonder why is it taking 2 years for like a 100 task?
Look, I think there's a lot of descriptive words that apply to what we've seen, and we should use them. And we should call them out. Domestic terrorist has to be included in that vernacular. But I've sort of, every now and then on social media, people say, no, you must use exactly these words. There's lots of words. The main thing is that we call out the hate and the racism and the violence and denounce it. Sure. Fill in the blank. I think we all know what we're talking about here. Yeah.
If I have to request